This is Let's Talk Business with your hosts, Mark Ebinger and Heather Bain. Now, here's Mark.
Welcome to Let's Talk Business, a show that talks entrepreneurship with some of the best businesses in the San Antonio area. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk about how businesses can leverage masterclasses and networking events to promote their business in a more authoritative way. In studio with us today is Marcos Miller, a local entrepreneur whose passion is helping others achieve their financial goals through real estate. Marcos, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks for having me.
Short notice guest, right? Pulled it out. Appreciate it, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
yeah. I had to
showing
dodge a
up,
few
man.
things.
Otherwise, we would have been, the three of us would have been staring at each other, making up things to say.
Oh, please. That would have been a really long conversation.
Also in studio with us today is Heather Bain, a certified business coach that works with business owners gain clarity and achieve their goals. Heather, welcome back to the second show of the day.
Always glad to be here.
Nice to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you, too.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, I'm sorry, no side conversations while the host is speaking. I'm kidding.
That's why I kept my mouth shut.
And we have Howie Nestel, the owner of Sharkmatic Advertising, where he and his team have helped over 1,500 clients grow their marketing influence. Howie, great to see you again.
Thank you, Mark. Great to see you.
I love it. See, when Howie does more than one show, he brings a change of clothes.
I know. I was thinking that. I'm like, on my
Really?
second show, same shirt. People are
Giving
judging
away
me
all
for sure.
my
Is that the
secrets.
same
It's
shirt?
the same shirt as
Oh,
in the
man.
picture.
Oh, it is?
I don't have a very varied wardrobe. I hate shopping for clothes, and I just had a kid, so like I went from being like this to being this, and
Right.
I just don't like buying clothes. So you're gonna see me in the same thing.
Any of the high-end stores at either Nordstrom Mall or La Cantera, save your receipt and just go exchange it.
Oh, see, Howie, I'm
geez.
still shoving at
What?
the TJ
Did I say that on the
Maxx,
radio?
okay?
I know, like
Yeah.
Heather Wren, she'll do custom clothing, and they'll take it at 4 sizes. They'll go, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it'll
it's
still look the same. You have to turn it inside out. Get reversible clothing.
Wow.
that's really
That's
getting your
the
money's
goal.
worth right
Oh, yeah.
there.
I've thought about going straight Steve Jobs with it and just getting a pilot, like a little pocket wardrobe, I think they call it, where you just kind of wear the same thing
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah,
Just black t-shirt.
T-shirt.
Black
Yeah,
t-shirt.
black T-shirt and a hoodie.
Yeah,
Well, so
exactly.
I was a cop for 30 years, right, as a uniform. So I was in the military for 5 of that, and in 24 at San Antonio. And it's like, I didn't have to think about what I was going to wear. You just throw it on and go. So
So that's why you like asking questions. You used to be a cop.
yeah,
You're
he,
terrible.
Not
he
only
knows
that,
how to,
he did
to
interrogation.
interview and to
Yeah.
interrogate.
I believe it. I believe it.
front page of the Express News in 2002, I think, 2001 or 2002. Kind of cool. I got that shot. I'm doing a speaking engagement tomorrow, and I have that on my slide.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it's my moment of fame. Let me have it, Howie.
You can have it.
I was in high school in 2002. I was in
Yeah.
10th grade, so you're really aging yourself there.
Yo,
This,
I was.
this shirt is from 2002.
Is it really?
No, it's not. I'm just kidding.
All right, so let me talk a little bit about the podcast here. So the Let's Talk Business podcast is the #1 business podcast in San Antonio area. And I've done my research on this.
Number one and growing.
It's just there's nothing even close
being
to it.
headhunted
Even when you
now.
Google and you
Really?
start looking around, it's like, I mean, they stopped putting their podcast shows up in 2001, or 2021, and it's like I want to get at the top of that search engine with Google on that, but. Spotify, I come up number 2 when you search for San Antonio Business Podcast, which is kind of cool.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. We do, so we've had over 3 million views on our social media. We exceed 100,000 views per month on YouTube. All combined media, and our YouTube subscriber base is growing at about 100 a day. So we're doing really well there. Looking to always expand and get into networks and getting the show out in front of as many people as possible. So if you're a business owner, you're putting on any kind of mixer, any kind of event, and you'd like to have the Let's Talk Business podcast come out there and say hi to it, then just reach out to my team, and we'd love to stop by. So a quick reminder for our listeners, you can catch video and podcast version of the show anytime by visiting our website. We actually got a new co-host too, Genevieve. So over there on the far left. You know, Howie, I know you're talking about the banner that I did, but there's a version of the banner, I think it's on YouTube, and you're actually higher in the image than I am.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go.
So
No,
Yeah,
it's like
so-
the Texas and the U.S. state flag. Mark can, no one
Right,
can
that's
be
right.
higher.
And yeah, so when we say the pledge and we look at Mark, we hand over.
stop it. I stopped requiring the pledge a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago, so you don't have to say
I would
anything.
love to see some analytics about how much faster the podcast is growing since Heather became a co-host than since I came
Oh, wow, a
on.
little
and
competition.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just
Who grew it
let's just take a
faster?
look. You know,
Throwing down the
are
gauntlet.
we growing faster than we
Whose
were?
dynamic personality has
Yeah.
really...
The other cool thing is that I think I've been at least once on each podcast in each of the locations you were You
Yeah.
started at
KTSA.
KTSA Radio.
You were on that one.
right? Then I was at the one at the podcast studio downtown, and then now we're here at Peachtree
Yeah,
Rose.
same with you, Heather.
Yeah,
right?
same. Well, my fun fact about the show is that my dad really has no idea what I do. I've tried to explain it, and he's like, But when I told him how many subscribers we had, he was like, wow, I'm really proud of you. And I was like,
Aw.
there we go. All right, now
Yeah,
I know how
now
to give
Now
his
you have made
approval.
it.
Now I've made it.
Analytics, baby. That's what people
Analytics.
like. They like stats. Need some
They
stats.
like hard
Well,
numbers.
I'm curious what the stats are going to look like, in 2 years from now, how big the show is going to be. Because we know that San Antonio is growing like crazy.
Right.
And then, we reach a lot of businesses in our area, greater San Antonio area. So and our first mixer's coming up end of January that we're going to be doing. Looking for at least 100 people there. I don't think that's going to be difficult.
Have you guys picked a location yet?
No, not yet.
We have
working
a
on
couple
that.
of them competing to
Oh.
host us
Yes,
Love it.
for the first podcast.
Yeah, we're going to let Howie do the negotiations on that.
for sure.
Yep.
No
They're going to
pressure.
give us the place, and they're going to give us their firstborn kid, and all the food, and all the drinks.
and we're going to charge, we think, $10, and the money's all going to go to charity.
Love it.
Because we often talk about doing well in business, but when we do well, we also want to do good.
Well, and
Important.
that's, I think, the great thing about business. You can take your one self and donate as much time and effort as you can into a charity. But if you're able to build a business that grows beyond you, how much more money and time could you donate to charity? If, you're making $50,000, there's a limit to how much you can donate and how much time you have. But if you're making $500,000, how much more could you donate? It could be 3 or 4 people's worth of time and effort just based on the income. I mean,
Most definitely.
Well, and using your skills too. That's a big thing that I remember. It kind of like broadened my thinking when I heard Howie say that at an event somewhere. It's like, it's not always about the money, but if you can bring your skills, your talent to the table, and now you're empowering that cause at a higher level, that they can get 3, 4, 10x versus what you would have done if you'd have just put your own hands into the mix.
Last year, I chaired a gala for the Ferrari Kid, a nonprofit for kids battling cancer.
Right.
I volunteered in the past. So what's the value of Howie volunteering and setting up an auction table or even selling a couple tables, or the check I can or am willing to write versus chairing it, inviting 1,000 of my closest friends, 670 showing up, and the event netting $300,000. Much higher and best use of my time and talents versus me going and volunteering.
Yeah, I love that. It's really eye-opening for me.
One of the questions, real quick, is one of those like the businesses that are interested in potentially sponsoring or representing themselves at your event. Do you choose a company that aligns with your vision, or you just pick anyone that has the highest bid?
Both.
Okay.
So I chaired Cattle Barons Gala years ago for the American Cancer Society, and the previous sponsor had been Methodist Healthcare, so I gave him first right of a refusal. But
Got it.
since it was the 35th anniversary of Gala and I was chairing it, I raised the price from $25,000 as the title sponsor to $35,000 because I thought it sounded nicer. 35th year, $35,000.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I said, but
Marketing, always marketing.
if for whatever reason you guys don't want to do it or can't do it, let
Yeah.
me know because I'm already talking to the folks at the children at CHOSA and at university, and then I don't know, within a couple of days they came back with a check for $35K,
Facts.
and they
That's
were the
good.
title
See, this
sponsor.
is why he's negotiating for where
Yeah.
I love
venue's
it.
gonna
Yeah,
I love it.
but sometimes it's about the money because it's going to a nonprofit, and if somebody can only give $5,000 and somebody else is willing to give $20,000 to be the title sponsor, you got to give it to the person who.
Rock on. All right, last plug for the show here is if you're a business owner in the San Antonio area and like to have your company featured on a show, visit our website at satalkradio.com or call our office at 210-879-8804. That's 210-879-8804. We can get you booked on the show. We do have, because we run so many guests through every week now, we get cancellations sometimes. So we get a short notice that will, try and get some either previous guests on the show or somebody cool or whatever. But when we can't find previous guests or somebody cool, we call Marcos.
Who's vying to be a co-host by asking me questions. I'm like, I don't answer your questions. You answer. No, I'm just kidding. No,
I
that's
like
great.
that too, but you just kind of stepped right into that.
No, he's always been a wealth of knowledge. Every time I interact with him, I always ask him questions. And so when you write a book, I'm gonna be one of the first.
Well,
ones
I
to
was
know.
telling Heather about my parenting book that I have not written, and my
Okay.
15-year-old daughter is horrified. She's like, "Who would read a book about parenting that you wrote? You're like the worst parent in the world."
Oh wow, okay.
I go, well, Nikki, I'm actually dedicating the book to you because you inspired me by something you said to me.
Okay.
And she goes, "What's that?" And I said, "The title of my book is going to be called Dad, I Hate You, but can you take my friends and I to Fright Fest?" Which was a direct quote. Oh, and don't follow us around because you'll look like a stalker. But, 15-year-old daughter.
I want to do, like, if I can't do the forward, since you'll probably get donations and all that kind of stuff for that, but if I could have a quote in there somewhere, I want a space that I can.
We'll sell
My
it to you.
3-year-old's looking.
You'll sell
Have
it.
you
Angel.
heard of Kill Tony?
No.
So Joe Rogan and a few other comedians, they have
Oh,
this
be a
open
man.
mic impromptu comedy thing in Austin. You should
Kill
go.
Tony.
Oh yeah, but it books out fast. Howie,
But
you probably
sometimes
have
they
to
let
leverage your connections to
Really?
get in there. But they draw from a hat to who can do the stand-up comedy, and it's whoever. You buy a ticket to the show, you go, and they draw from a hat, and whoever gets drawn goes up on stage. And some people have popped off from it.
Yeah.
I
You
would
need to
do
go.
that. I was on a
It's hilarious.
podcast here with Edward Hernandez, who's a comedian who's toured, all over the U.S., and he had me on his podcast. And it was supposed to be a 1-hour segment. We talked for 2.5 hours. They broke it up into a couple of segments, and they do it in somebody's garage in Alamo Heights. It's pretty cool, but it's not a stand-up hour. But the other two co-hosts are also professional comedians, and it's a blast. It's
Oh,
a
I bet that's
riot.
fun.
Yeah, I'm onto
nonstop.
something.
It would be fun. You should look
Yeah.
into that, Howie. I bet you could squeeze in without a ticket just
But
based
Marcos,
on
I'll
who
put you
know.
down for a 10% off on my
Absolutely.
book. What I would do though,
Or 10% to be your agent.
there you go.
Yeah.
Ooh,
'cause
see,
it's
he's
my
always
idea,
looking
we'll
for
record it.
opportunities
Yeah.
to connect.
If I were to ever do a book, it would really be about philanthropy and about giving back and how you don't have to be a millionaire, billionaire to be a philanthropist. Here's the world's poorest philanthropist. And I've been on 100 nonprofit boards, and I've chaired countless number of events, and I met phenomenal people, high quality people through my nonprofit work that I would have never met through owning Sharkmatic
Yeah,
Advertising.
and so Howie, you're a machine, right? You
Yeah.
just keep going and going and going, and then you're very the personality colors in that yellow as far as giving and nurturing
Yeah.
towards nonprofits and the community. So it's a pleasure having you as a co-host on the show. So, but enough about Howie.
Yeah.
I think maybe we should talk about Marcos.
Right.
since
Let's
he's a
talk
guest
about
on
you.
the show.
Let's talk
Hold on,
business.
we can keep it right here.
Let's
Keep it right
talk.
here.
Oh, we got
We're gonna
the show
rename the
title
show.
in there. I love it.
We're on the Let's Talk Howie show. San Antonio.
Hashtag hanging with Howie.
Hanging with Howie.
No, hashtag Howieisms. I thought that.
Howie.
Oh,
Right.
Howieisms.
Yeah.
I got a whole
that could be
playlist
the
of
name
that
of the
going.
book too.
Speaking of which, do you have a Howieism for this week? I mean, is there something like, throughout the week that was like, this is what fixes that, or this? Well, think about it.
Yes. No. I have one.
All right.
It was from the meeting that we went to, and it was freaking pouring down rain, and I walk in and I'm soaking wet. And I thought, you can control the weather. I'm sorry. No, Howieism. Rewind. No, you
so
can't
start
control
over.
the weather. Yeah, no, here it is. And I said this, and when I walked in, I said, you can't control the weather, but you can choose whether or not you want to carry an umbrella. So I chose not to carry one, and I got soaking wet. So there are a lot of things in life that we cannot control, but we can choose either tools that might help us cope with it or weather it better. But sometimes we choose not to, and then we're wondering why we got soaking wet. It's because we chose not to carry an umbrella. Metaphor for business, metaphor for life. You can't choose whether or not, pandemic's going to happen, Y2K or another 2008. But if you have savings ahead of time, you have the emergency funds, you have a great network of people, you have some strategic partners and alliances in terms of vendors and clients, then you're much more likely to be able to weather that storm. It's the people that were kind of caught off guard that went out of business during the pandemic.
Networking it's a big part of San Antonio, right?
Yeah.
If you want to do well in San Antonio, you've got to network somehow,
do.
right?
Very relational here.
Yeah,
you
it really
need
is.
to know someone to do
Or know
business
someone that
with
knows
them.
someone.
Yep.
And so, of course, I was a cop for many, many years, right? Not real social, not real networking, didn't really care.
You know a lot of people,
Know what I
but
mean?
a lot of the wrong people.
Yeah, right.
You got to know them pretty well.
Yeah, and if I show up, you didn't want to see me, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing when I'm walking up on you and you've had a couple of too many to drink and booking DWI is one of my favorite things to do. I don't know if it's right to say that, but it was. Anyway, networking wasn't something that I cared about, right? And but now, I mean, since I've been an entrepreneur for a little bit of time now, networking is super powerful and it's super fun too. I love meeting other entrepreneurs and finding that common ground, laughing, learning, just growing. Right. So when it comes to how are you, because it's got to be a part of what you're doing. I know you're into master classes. We want to get into that a little bit because I'm super interested in learning more about that myself. So this isn't just a podcast for my listeners; it's a podcast for me too about learning. So how do you network? What's your deal there?
Oh wow, that's a bit of a loaded question.
It's a big one.
I
Just
think
pick your lane.
I think so. The reason why you became a cop is probably because you wanted to be a public servant, right? You wanted to no.
I wanted to wear the badge and gun when I was 7 years old. Check it out.
I was going somewhere with this, but okay.
When I was 7 years old, I drew this picture, right? And my mom actually kept that picture, right? And it was like, when I grew up, I want to be a cop kind of a thing. So I knew from a kid, we had somebody come and visit the school.
Okay.
And I was like, the handcuffs and the belt and not really the gun so much. I was just kind of kidding, but the handcuffs and the belt and the car and all of the things, And then, of course, the black and white CHP there in California. It's like, I love that.
Yeah,
it is a level of cool. And there's like, I was picked on when I was a kid.
Okay, that makes sense.
You kind of just go through that. You want to be the power player or whatever. But of course, it doesn't really execute necessarily like that when you're there. But it was more about the image of cop, not really about serving the people. That's something that you kind of learn as you go through it. At least for me.
So let's pretend he said yes.
Yes. Let's pretend he said yes for sure.
Yeah, that was a $20 answer to a $5 question.
No, it's good. I mean, I think my natural love for other human beings is probably where it comes from, right? And then failing myself and not having enough wisdom to ask those around me. So what I do is I just flood people with, it's corny, flood them with love, flood them with resources, and it just produces value. And then it translates into dollars and profit. And so they make money, and then I make money, and everybody's happy. Now, it goes a lot deeper than that because where I come from, whenever when I'm putting together these classes, we don't just talk about finances. We talk about everything that builds up to what it means to be a total human being, right? So spiritual, mental, emotional, financial, and physical. So we talk about fitness, we talk about politics, we talk about religion, we talk about business, right? We talk about different aspects of what it means to be a total human being. Because you can make all the money, but if you're not fulfilled in what you're doing, it doesn't really mean anything, right?
Yeah, you go away empty.
Right, exactly. So just a natural love for people is kind of where it comes from. Yeah, for me.
So tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what your, bring us up to speed in 90 seconds.
Nobody wants to hear that.
Seriously,
do,
because
yeah.
this is your first time on the show.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like I like to get a little bit of background for our listeners and such.
Okay.
My guess is you'll probably be on the show later, down the road and stuff.
Hopefully, yeah.
Let's get into, tell us 90 seconds about your background and what you do and why you do it.
Okay.
And I think like hearing the point of reference, like it takes hearing one story about how somebody else did it to start you down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
It can change your entire life, right? So they want to know, like, where did you start out? Because some people start out, my dad gave me $50,000 and then and that's not where a lot of people start out.
Yeah.
They start out very much not in that space. So knowing where you came from is huge. So they can be like, yeah, this is someone that is in a similar circumstance to me, and here's where they are now.
Oh, cool. What do you think? You got some feedback on that? On what he's saying?
I want the 90 seconds of Marcos' story.
Yeah.
Where'd you come from? How'd you get started doing what you do? And what is it that you actually do for people?
Okay. So originally born in New Orleans, parents divorced, moved to San Antonio in 1989, so 1990. And then I've been here ever since.
Did you come with both parents or with one?
No, my parents separated and then moved here to San Antonio. So with my mom and my 4 siblings. So I have 3 older brothers and 1 older sister. So there's 5 of us. And so you grew up in the inner city of the West Side in the height of the gangs, right?
Yeah.
So you have to navigate that.
You can blame Mark for that. He was a cop back then. But go ahead.
But they did a good job of cracking down. The SAP did a really good job. And then I joined the Boys and Girls Club. My mom just said she needed somewhere to put the kids, right? So government cheese and all that fun stuff, right? So was a part of the Boys and Girls Club through my youth. I think that really helped me. There were some mentors there along the way, really kind of help you navigate that. Got a job working at Blockbuster. right?
Rock
And then-
on.
Yeah, then I got hired at Washington Mutual. Then I got hired at USAA. Got into mortgages, kind of backed my way into it. Got the bug for real estate. Started flipping houses. I flipped a few, helped some other people do it. And then I said, well, there's an angle to this for helping raise money. I know mortgages. I know finance a little bit. So that's kind of just.
Do you have a full-time job, or are you just really your
I
own
do
entrepreneur?
this. I do this full time. Yeah,
Huh?
Full time entrepreneur, mortgage broker, real estate finance professional. Yeah.
So everybody has a first on flipping, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did that go for you?
It was a deal that the first flip was someone had brought it to me 6 months prior, and I wanted to do the wholesaling thing. They brought it to me, this deal. They had it for $85,000, and I ended up not buying it. But fast forward 8 months, that same deal came across my pipeline, but the market had kind of shifted. Came across my pipeline for $125,000. That someone else that I was friends with brought it to me, and so it was still a deal at $125. So we just kind of joint ventured through it. I raised the capital to buy it. I raised the down payment to kind of float the acquisition cost. And then I have a father-in-law that does work, general labor. So I got him in there. Have a few other friends that needed jobs. So they did some of the work. And then we did the work. I painted the walls pink because I thought it was gray. The walls.
Dude, what is wrong with you, man?
Yeah.
You might be
It was the first
colorblind.
one.
Well, if you look it up, it's called moon gray, right? But it looks gray when you're in Home Depot. But when it was
right.
on the wall, it was kind of
You gotta do the
pinkish.
test patch.
Yeah, that was my first one.
Note
right?
to self:
Lesson
It's
learned.
still
do
sold.
swatches and then come back and look at it the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
you don't watch
learned that, right?
HGTV? I mean, that's where I learn all my flipping stuff.
So anyway, we put on the market, had some partners, so we each made probably 30,000 on the flip.
Great.
And so it was profitable. So we ended up just kind of doing it again. So yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of people who quietly do that. You know, they go and they're flipping houses and they're not, spreading that knowledge anywhere.
Yeah.
In San Antonio, especially, there's a lot of really quiet investors.
Yeah,
and
it really is.
Finding them is difficult. So where did that transition come from you doing the flips and making good money
Mm-hmm.
to now you're teaching people how to do this and pairing them up and spreading that knowledge?
Oh man, so like I just kind of backed my way into it. And it's like this new marketing campaign that I've put together, just kind of figuring it out as I go, and not having the intention. It just kind of evolves as the vision grows. So I made some because I wanted to start out wholesaling because has the lowest buy-in. Right? It doesn't take a lot of overhead. You can make phone calls and you get some deals under contract. So I started there. So you make a lot of friends and other people that are in struggling situations. So those relationships end up becoming business partners because they're always shopping you deals. And then because I do mortgages, you're always around people that are buying houses. Sometimes they have disposable cash, right? So say, I have this deal. What do you think about it? Well, I want to partner with it. And so I just kind of marry the opportunity, right? And I tell that to other entrepreneurs, like Joel, for instance, right? Just sometimes people that are sitting on a gold mine of just marrying opportunities. And I teach that in the class. Like, hey, you have this here, you have this, you have this, you have this. Let's put it all together, extract profit. You make money, everybody makes money. So it takes just putting yourself second, most of all, right? Figuring out what the investor, what the need is, what the market needs. But that's kind of what I've done. I just kind of pieced together opportunities and I've been profitable.
So I like the model
Yeah.
of profit sharing
Yeah.
versus partnerships. For me, I've been a partner in 25 businesses, and the only ship that's guaranteed not to sail is a partnership. For me.
Yeah.
I think
Good.
Dave Ramsey
You
However-
should
says
change that
too.
to like the only ship guaranteed to sink is a partnership.
Okay.
I
think you should
disagree.
change
Well,
I
Dave
thought that last
Ramsey
time I
says
didn't say
the only
anything, but I
ship
felt
that
like I
doesn't
needed to
Take
float
two.
is a partnership.
Take
Well, that's
two.
been a common
Hold on,
theme
Mark
too.
and I are
Is
doing
it?
our
You think
own
so?
show here.
Oh yeah, I've been hearing it everywhere.
theirs,
You
we're
listen on
doing ours.
podcasts.
I think that's a first.
But go ahead.
No, that's a first. There's a one show going on there, and there's a different
yeah,
show
we're
going on
talking.
here. All right. So, Mark, for me, the only ship that's guaranteed to sink is a partnership.
Partnership. Okay.
But there's something about profit sharing that I like a lot more than a partnership. Partnerships, usually two people that are struggling come together
Yeah.
and then they struggle together.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you form a partnership with two people who are successful. One has money, one has the asset, or one has access to whatever.
Right.
And they come together and they say, hey, look, we'll split the profits 50-50, 70-30, whatever it happens to be. You're not married. You're not doing paperwork. You're not getting attorneys involved other than a simple contract.
Right.
And then you make the deal. And if the parties are both happy with the outcome, they're more likely to do deals in the future.
Absolutely.
But if you start a business together, there's all that paperwork and all that stuff. And then
From a flip
so
perspective.
I like the profit participation. And back to the networking thing, and it's something that I'm finding, Mark, you're doing very well, which is, and Heather said, it's who you know and what you know and what connections you have. And I take it one step further and I always say it's also not only all those things, but it's also who knows you. And then the final step is who knows what you do. Because I've had people that know me, they even know the name of my business, and they still don't know what I do. So you got to make sure that people know what you do. And you're doing that. When I say Mark Ebinger, like, oh yeah, guy with a podcast, and that's the guy.
Well, Mark did his presentation at BNI, and people were like, you own a virtual assistant staffing company?
Yeah, because I talk so much. See, this is where
That's
I
amazing.
start those relationships,
yeah.
right? So, but yeah, I led with the podcast. It's probably more psychological than anything else. So, but anyway.
That's kind of how we got linked up, was a virtual assistant opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah. 'Cause-
But it's like you're involved in stuff that I'm curious about, and I think that's valuable.
Okay.
And I mean, you came highly recommended by Joel, and it's like, dude, why don't you come on the podcast?
Why
We'll
are
have
you
a
curious
conversation.
about it? See, that's how it goes.
Because I smell a master class on podcasting coming up from Mark.
So
Ebinger.
yeah, what you're doing on Masterclass, because it's networking at a little bit higher level.
Okay.
Because you're leading with tremendous value in a masterclass.
Okay.
Am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in this podcast is leading with tremendous value for folks that come on on the show. I like that. I like starting with giving
Yeah.
because the know, like, and trust value is there. It's all
Organic.
heartfelt. It's organic, and then and if we vibe, then cool. Let's do stuff together. But yeah, that's the deal. Is I want to learn about master classes.
Well, and I think what I find interesting, because I think people, like, at a core level, understand giving value. A big part of it's social media. You give tips, you give tricks, but capturing the monetary gain of that on the other end without being sleazy gets a little bit more complicated, because there is a potential to gain. It's just like you lead with value and you figured out a way to organically see where your income fits there. And it's not like I'm ripping people off.
Right.
You're doing this masterclass and then you do see income coming from it.
Right.
Because I feel like as an investor, you see the hidden potential in an asset,
Yeah.
and you pull together the right team and right problem solving skills
Yeah.
to unveil the potential, and you're just doing that with people.
Yeah.
There's something there that's always bugged me about how you start to monetize what you do without feeling kind of sleazy and bad about making money. But you have to tell yourself first and foremost, I'm providing a ridiculous amount of value and I'm only charging a fraction of that.
Yep.
So when people are like, oh my God, Marcos's masterclass is $100,000 for an hour. Well, I don't know how much it is.
I like
but,
where your head's at, though.
You're like, hey, but you know what? 6 of the people that did the masterclass last year each netted over $1 million.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now, all of a sudden, 100K doesn't sound that bad. And you'll tell us later on if you want to tell us, but we'll give you the opportunity to promote the pricing of your masterclass. But that's how I get over that. The other thing that Marcos has an advantage on is that he's making money through mortgages, his own flips, his own connections, and all that stuff. So whether or not people want to pay or be a part of the masterclass or whatever is semi insignificant or irrelevant when you take into consideration the big picture. Some people have all their eggs in one basket, and if you don't pay them, they don't make money, and they seem desperate. And then they're trying to charge you, and they're trying to do this, and they're trying to do all that. And that, I think, sometimes where people get in a little bit of trouble because they're desperate. They're calling you all the time. Hey, are you going to pay? You're going to join? Or, we're holding a spot for
Commission
you.
breath.
So let's get into your master class. So you do one every week. I think.
Every week.
So how did it start?
Okay, so it started. So one of the business owners that I personally mentored, I was doing a renovation project on her personal home, and she was doing, she wanted all the fancy stuff. So I got my crew in there to renovate her home, her restroom. She had some flood damage, and we did the whole thing, and she loved it. So in being at her house and talking with her and her husband, they're like, Marcus, what do you do? Like, what do you do? Like, so I said, oh, I do a little bit of this, I do this. Look, this is the one I've done. I have this partner. I want to get into that. Okay, well, maybe one day we'll get there. I said, so what do I have to do? So I told her, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this, and then come back to me, right? So she did. She checked all the boxes. She came back to me. She said, hey, I have this house. I think it's a deal. So I was like, I looked at it. I was like, yeah, it's a deal. I'll fund it. So she brought me the deal. I funded it and walked her through the entire process with my personal crew. I handheld her through the entire process, right? I was there probably 2 or 3 times a week for an hour at a time. A lot of phone calls because she was, obviously it's her first one. They're a little antsy. And so when it was all said and done, she made, I think she netted $70,000 on when she sold it, right?
Huge.
And so she had a friend that was relocating from California. She told her friend about it. And her friend told her husband. And then they told 2 other people. And they told 2 other people. And I didn't know this was going on. So she said, Marcus, me and a few of my friends want to get together. And we want to see if you can kind of talk to us for a little bit. We have some questions about probably doing this again. I said, okay, right, let's meet here. And so, kind of backing my way into it. Let's meet here. And so I show up and there's 7 other people there. I said, what in the world did I get myself into, right? So they were just asking me questions and I was just giving them free value. If they could have gone on YouTube or whatever, but for whatever reason, they thought enough of me to want to sit down with me. And I talked them through that. And they said, well, when are we going to meet again? Next week? Okay, yeah, let's meet next week. We meet next week. And there was 10 people there. Okay. And then we meet again. And then we meet again. So, and then someone else buys a deal. And then someone else makes money. I said, okay. So I guess this is an official thing, right? I guess it's official. I guess I'll create an organization and create an LLC and create a Facebook page and do all this, that, and the other. But yeah, so we've been doing it for about 25 weeks now. And we've made combined probably $400,000 and we've moved $4 million in unit volume. And then we've created I'd say about 385 to 400,000 in equity between these different projects. And one lady, oddly enough, she didn't make money, but she didn't lose money, but she raised $100,000. And now she's investing on another project passively that I'm personally coaching her how to do it.
Wow.
So it's just like this organic thing where people just have a natural interest and I'm just kind of fanning the flame and teaching them the right way to do it because I've made a lot of mistakes and people are finding value and coming back. So I'm actually working on another deal in Floresville. It's kind of like piecing it together and everybody's going to make money. So, yeah.
Well, that generates a lot of excitement when people are making money on the deal, right?
That's what really matters, right? And they're fulfilled in the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can be transactional and just talk numbers, but I mean, I like to believe that I'm creating relationships with these people.
Well, especially if you're talking about other subjects in your master classes, right?
Yeah.
Religion, politics, life, feelings, emotions, empathy. Yeah, I love that. And
the conversations kind of go this way sometimes, so you got to be careful, right? Some people talk about, well, the man this and the man, like, oh, geez, okay, we got to bring it back. But I mean, that's just comes with it. Anyway, you're going to say
opportunities are around us all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
But most people are walking through life with blinders on.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is we want to have comfort in what we know. And so we do things the same way we've always done them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're blinded to those opportunities that are presenting themselves. Whereas you saw some success in mortgages, in connecting people, in doing your own flip, that when this opportunity came up and people started asking you, you actually saw it and identified it as an opportunity, even if it wasn't at the first meeting or the second meeting, but then you started seeing it. A lot of entrepreneurs or people that I call wantrepreneurs that, would like to own their own business but just haven't or just have a hobby and don't monetize it, don't see the opportunities because they're only doing what they've always done. And if you do what you always do, you get the same results you've always gotten.
Yeah.
Definition of crazy, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
And people like comfort. People like certainty. But we need, as humans, we need uncertainty. And so I actively tell people, go out and do things that make you uncomfortable, look for things that are uncertain, and then you'll really be able to test your worth in the marketplace.
Yeah, one of the biggest barriers that I have is mindset with these master classes, right? It's just mindset. And so I have to break down barriers, and I challenge them. Like one day we literally sat there and say, hey, these are the deals. These are the ones that are available. You're going to make phone calls right here in front of everybody, in front of everybody. And some people did it. Some people shied away, but I mean,
That's what I have virtual assistants for.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll work on the script. We'll work on the tonality and all of that and the objections, and then go. I'll train somebody to do that. Thank you very much.
no, that's good. That's good, right? But like what I've seen with the wholesaling and the marketing businesses, my conversion rate is 25%. So now I have to hit 1 million phone calls versus, hey, I'm intentional about these 200 phone calls where I have a 40% conversion rate or 45% conversion rate. So it's like good and bad. VAs allow you to scale, but I mean, you dilute the quality of the potential conversion.
Yeah, and there are certain people that when I want them to be on the podcast, they might be presidents, CEOs, or executive directors.
Yeah.
I put them directly in touch with Mark. So there's a touch from Mark,
Absolutely,
the founder and main host,
Yep.
and then he can pass it off to his VA.
Love that.
But I think coming back to mindset, like if you're going to get on that phone call and think, oh my gosh, like I'm never going to find a good deal. You know, the government is just making it so hard with these interest rates that nothing's going to be able to happen with it. I mean, you're basically guaranteeing your own failure in that case. It's probably not going to happen versus coming at it like, I'm going to find the deal. It exists. And even with the circumstances going on around me, I'm going to find a way to make this work because my goals and my level of vision exceeds the hindering circumstances now. That's two very different people coming to the phones.
Yeah.
Well, we do have to wrap up, guys. I mean, that was a fast, 35
Wow, that
minutes,
was really
36
fast.
minutes.
What does it cost to be a part of the
yeah.
Marcos mindset?
It's not the Marcos, but so
It doesn't have a name.
I call it the winning circle. The group has kind of given me like flack about that because they feel like it's corny. Right?
Winning circle?
The winning circle. Yeah. So win circle.
Sounds like it could be a Disney song.
It sounds like the Kentucky Derby.
So we're still working through that, right? The other thing is, I don't want to highlight myself. I want to highlight the success of the group, right?
Right.
The kid, the guys.
And
the
you're
women.
here with a bunch of egomaniacs, so we're like, the Marcos Miller mindset.
So as far as cost goes, if someone, okay, let me ask you guys a question. I know we're going long on time, but if someone's on the street and they're like, hey, it's $100, $100 free, you can have it, $100. What are you guys gonna think? There's a scam. It's a scam. It's fake, right?
Take it and run.
Right, or it's a fraudulent $100 bill, right? And so I have to be careful how I present this opportunity, right? Because if I say there's no cost, people are like, what's the catch?
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Because even people that were coming to the class like, Marcus, what's the angle? It's like, there's no angle. I'm literally giving you behind the veil access to what's going on. You're seeing contracts, you're seeing everything, you're seeing HUD statements, and so there is no cost.
Gotcha. But at some point, they got to pull their weight, right? They got to either invest or connect or bring some value or whatever.
Well, if they want
What's
to
the
achieve, they
qualifier,
do.
maybe.
Right? If they want to make money, they're going to have to invest.
Right.
Otherwise, they're just passively learning.
Yeah,
Got it.
and
Okay.
that's a conversation we probably need to have offline. I'll say, hey, Marcus,
Okay.
you need to draw the line here because your value is X and this and that. But I'm
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. Good to know.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm glad you guys are having such great success.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, more to come for sure. Thank you.
All right.
How
As
do
we wrap
people
up
get a hold of him?
Oh, yeah. So, Marcos, thank you for that, Howie. If people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
I mean, Instagram, MM_loan officer. Same thing on X or Twitter, whatever they call it these days. Same thing with Facebook, MM_loan officer. Keep it simple. Even MM_loanofficer.com.
Cool.
I like it.
Thanks, Marcos. I appreciate it. All right. As we wrap up the show, quick reminder to check out our latest podcast or catch video versions of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com, where we have all four, would you call them egomaniacs?
No.
All right. That's going to be it for this week. But thanks, guys, for coming in. I had a great time.
Thanks for having me, guys.